Hey BookTube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you are new to me and it's the first time you're seeing my face, hello, what's up? My name's Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So I hope that's why you're here, because that's what's gonna be happening today. If you're not new to me, thank you for always tuning in and continued support. I really do appreciate it. As you can see from today's title of the video, I have another recommendation video for you, and this is all on badass female heroines or badass FMCs. These are those chicks that we want to be. These are those chicks that we wish were our best friends. These are those chicks that we wish we had in our back pocket for those times where the guy just pisses us off one too many times. Just playing, but not really. Yeah, so this is actually in collaboration with a bunch of ladies here on YouTube, and I will have them all linked down in the down box below. So if you'd like to find out some recommendations based off on who I think are some badass FMCs, well, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, and let's get talking some books. Okay, so what's it mean to be a badass? I say that a lot about a lot of different people, and I'm just like, man, she's so badass, or like, damn, that's so badass. But what exactly is being a badass? So when I was looking up recommendations for this, I thought of so many heroines that I love and I look up to, and I'm just like, man, I wish I could be her. I think she's badass, or people I have actually said in videos that I think they're badass. I went through a bunch of my old videos and tried to find all of these awesome female ladies. And when I came across many of these, I started finding out that there's some characteristics that are similar. And it got me thinking, really, what is a badass? What is my criteria for a badass? So I Googled it. I was like, what does the world say is a badass? And I found this one article that gave 10 things, 10 reasons that if you meet these, you're a badass, or you meet a few of these, you're a badass. And I agreed with every single one of them. So here they are. Here's my criteria for what a badass is. You're brave. You have found your path. You have good friends. Your heart is full. People look up to you. You don't take yourself too seriously. You're unstoppable. Risk-taking comes naturally to you, like it's in your blood. Self-doubt doesn't really exist in your world at all. And you can identify your own weaknesses and actively work to improve them. These are what this article said were 10 criteria for being a badass, predominantly a badass female. And I agree with all of these. So I based all of the heroines that I'm going to talk to you about, all my FMCs, all my female characters, based off of this criteria. So let's get into it. The first couple that I'm going to suggest to you, these women are badasses right off the jump. I mean, they are introduced as badasses, they continue to be badasses, and at the end of the book, you still think they're a badass. There is growth in their character development, but it only makes their badassness even fucking cooler, and kind of makes me want to be them and have their life. So, the first one I have to recommend is Emma Dumas from Jessie by J.A. Huss. This is the first installment of the Bossy Brothers series. And I listened to this on audio by Ava Erickson and Teddy Hamilton. Highly recommend the audiobook on this one. It was fantastic. And Teddy Hamilton says one of the best fucking lines I have ever heard in an audiobook. And I cannot do it justice. So I'm not going to say it on camera because I cannot do it justice. I can't. Just listen to it. And when the line comes, you'll fucking know. And you will be wet. End of story. So, quick little summary about Jessie. Emma Dumas buys Jessie in a bachelor auction. He is a billionaire, she's a billionaire, and she buys him. But she buys him with a motive. You see, back in the day, he fucked her over. He fucked her and a couple of her friends over because he was a total player. He grew up with money and he could get away with it, so he did what he wanted to do. And they got pissed off about it. So these women combined together to form this makeup company and find out that he's being auctioned off in a billionaire auction for like a date. And they're like, fuck yeah, here it is. Payback is a bitch. And they buy the fucker. And after they buy him, well, they kidnap him. And let's just say, as they try to enact their payback goes both ways and karma cuts both ways. So we have a really interesting scenario in the story, and it starts off really fun. It's a good time. But Emma Dumas, particular. So the criteria I mentioned earlier, she meets 3 of them. Good friends. She has got a strong core of group friends. I mean, these women voluntarily chose to kidnap a dude with her. Who doesn't want friends like that? I mean, seriously, who doesn't? I know that I have some friends that would do some shady shit for me if I needed them. I know. So, you want friends that they'll go the distance. You don't want the friend that you're always gonna call to get you out. You want the friend that's gonna be sitting in the jail cell with you. And that's what these bitches are. Okay? She also doesn't take herself too seriously. There's many scenes in the book where during this banter between Jessie and her, this back and forth tug and pull, because the banter in this book is phenomenal, he kind of puts a bet on her. And he says, you know, I remember you. I do, once everything comes to fruition. And I remember a pigtails and some Daisy Duke shorts, blushing red. She gets embarrassed. But what does she do? Oh, on that date he makes her go on, that's exactly what she shows up in, and she just flaunts her little ass like nobody's fucking business. Yes, this bitch is dope. I fucking love it. I love this bitch. Love her. Love her. That was a great scene. And there's tons of scenes like that in this book where she's literally laughing at herself and laughing at situations and not taking them too seriously. I love that about her. I loved her carefree spirit in this book. She's also extremely brave. There are 2 scenes in this book, one at the beginning and one at the end, which are different levels of bravery, and I fucking thought it was great. First, in the beginning of the book, we are getting a hot and heavy scene, okay? Hot and heavy. He is going to town on her, and she is just eating it all up, okay? She's eating it up. And then when it comes about, turnabout is fair play, you know, what's good for one is good for the other. She up and says, well, fuck off. I don't really care. I got what I wanted. You can peace off now. And she fucking leaves him high and dry. Fucking joke move. Oh my God, I loved it. Because at that moment, that fucker deserved it. He did. He did. And she rocked that shit. I immediately thought, I want to be her when I grow up. I love her. I love her. And at the very end of the book, there's a scene where she finds out some secretly weird, twisted shit, because this book does have a cloak and dagger element as well. And she learns about it. And you know the chick in the horror films? They're like, oh, go down in the basement, go in the basement. And you on the sidelines are like, don't go in the fucking basement, because you know what's going to happen if you go in the basement. Well, this bitch walks in this room, sees this bullshit going on, and she's like, you know what? I love you. And because I love you, and he's your best friend, I'm going to take you, I'm going to take you, I'm going to take your shit, and you're moving in, and we're going to pretend this fucking didn't happen because this is fucking weird. Thank you. I'm not going to die today. Have a nice day. And she proceeds to go pack up his shit and bring him home with her. Because why? She's got fucking common sense. Sometimes doing the common sense thing is the bravest thing. And I fucking love this bitch for it. I love her. I had a great fucking time with her. This is a fun one. It is spicy. It is humorous. The banter between these two are phenomenal. Really highly recommend this one if you want a relatable badass female. Even though she's a millionaire, she's still a relatable, down-to-earth girl. And it's a good time. All right, my next badass female on the board today is none other than Carnal Urges by J.T. Geisinger Sloane. There is not there was no way I could do this video without talking about this bitch, okay? She was a badass in the first book, which is Ruthless Creatures, where we meet her. She's just a side character. Carnal Urges is the second installment to the Queens and Monsters series by J.T. Geisinger. A lot of triggers in this one. Do check your trigger list. But this is her story. And she was a badass in book 1. Oh, it only gets fucking better in book 2. Oh my God, I fucking love Sloane. She's my spirit animal. Okay? She's my spirit animal. Straight up. Straight up. So, without spoiling Ruthless Creatures, Sloane gets herself into a predicament, okay? Something happens and some instances happen where she is placed in a confined space with our hero Declan, okay? And once she is in this confined space with Declan, we find out that Declan has been promoted into his area of the underbelly of the world, because this is also a mafia romance. And he is immediately promoted because his head guy, yeah. So now, not only is he in charge, but he has to deal with Sloane, who, by the way, is a chatty Cathy. It's probably one reason why she is my spirit animal, because this bitch loves to talk and she never shuts the fuck up. and I love it, okay? A lot of twists and turns in this one, really hot, steamy, a lot of fun sex scenes in this one, a lot of fun banter. Declan and Sloane together, priceless. Daddy Declan, okay? Daddy Declan, that's all I gotta fucking say on that one. But this is not about our hero, this is about Sloane and this crazy bitch. So, she has found her path, okay? You have to go back to Ruthless Creatures to get the really full scope of how badass that she actually is, but she has found her path, which was one of the criteria that I went with. She knows what she wants, who she wants, and when she wants it. There is no question to who Sloane is and what her game is. She owns everything, good, bad, and different. She is an all-around badass chick because she knows what the fuck she wants. She knows her path, she's on it, and she's not leaving, okay? Straight up, she's not leaving. People look up to her, okay? So our heroine from the first book is Sloane's best friend and looks up to her, enjoys the fact that she is so carefree and she just doesn't give a fuck. At least that's what it looks like. She gives off this air that nothing can touch her, okay? She is just, oh my God. Sloane can soften the hardest of men, and you see this in Carnal Urges with a bunch of other male characters who get their stories later in this series. But she softens them just by being herself, her chatty, never shutting up self. I like to state the fact that this bitch talks all the time, because she does, and it's fantastic, and I love her, okay? I love her. She also does not take herself too seriously at all. She is one of the first people to crack a joke, especially during some dark times. She does not deal with serious too well. She likes to keep it light, keep it fun, but she can be serious when she has to be. And then she promptly lightens the situation. So she knows her scope, okay? But let me tell you something about Sloane. She can dish it out. And when somebody gives it back to her, that bitch knows how to take it. Straight up knows how to take it. She knows how to deliver it. She knows how to take it. And it is glorious. The banter in this book between Declan and her, so good. So fucking good. I loved it. It was fantastic. She is a risk taker. It comes naturally to her. You see this more in Ruthless Creatures where she's just like, ooh, gangster, fuck yes, I'm gonna go date him, fuck yes. Yeah, ooh, let me just talk to you. I know you're in the mafia, so I'm gonna keep talking. It's just fucking great. She doesn't care. She just wants to be the life of the party. And the flamboyant, and her fashion sense is like out of this world because she is just all about the crazy look at me kind of shit. Like, she is a risk taker in her fashion, and the guy she chooses in her heart. She risks everything in this book. But at the same time, it's nothing to her because this is her nature. She only knows how to give everything and risk everything. She doesn't know how to hold back. And it's fucking gorgeous. I loved her. Loved her. Self-doubt. What fucking self-doubt? Sloane does not doubt herself, okay? There might be a moment where instances are brought to her light and she's maybe a little overwhelmed, but she does not doubt that she can get herself out of it, because this bitch can get herself out of anything. She's like damn Teflon, okay? Nothing fucking sticks to this bitch. Nothing except Declan, and we like that he sticks to her, okay? We like this. It's a thing that we like. And she knows when she has a weakness and she learns how to overcome it. And she knows that sometimes her weaknesses are her people that care about her, the people that look up to her, the people that respect her, the people that love her. These are her weaknesses. And she learns how to adapt around them without sacrificing them. I thought it was great. She is such a fun character to read. She is such a breath of fresh air in a dark mafia romance series. And let me tell you, the spice in this book with her, risks all over the place, and they're stunning, and this bitch, she likes to have some fun. It's another criteria for being badass. Sure is. Loved her. This one's a good one, but you do have to read Ruthless Creatures to read this book and get the full scope of just how badass Sloane is. So please be aware that if you're gonna read this book, please read Ruthless Creatures first. It's just as fucking good as this one, but Sloane, cherry on fucking top. A badass. The next one I have is a historical fiction, and this is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garment, and we are featuring Elizabeth Zott in this. This is also women's literary fiction. It can be categorized as that. It is a standalone. We do have some serious triggers in this one. Rape, misogyny, common prejudicial views of women in the late 50s, early 60s, and a surprise baby. So please be warned about those. But we have Elizabeth, who is a brilliant chemist in the late 50s, early 60s, a profession not very common to women, okay? And after getting her employment at Hastings, which is the chemist lab that she's employed at, she encounters Calvin, a chemist who is famous in his own right, all right? They begin a relationship and they have growing pains because Elizabeth is not your typical girl of the 50s. She's very, very modern and forward thinking. She would fit in today's society perfectly, okay? But she was kind of born in the wrong generation, essentially. But there is a moment that happens in Elizabeth's life that turns her world literally upside the fuck down and backwards. And she has to navigate that world right after navigating this new relationship that she had with Calvin. Now she has to navigate this world, and she doesn't have the support of basically society for this new world that she has been basically dropped in. So the stage is set, and Elizabeth is our primary character we follow through the entire of the story, and she is a force to be reckoned with. I picked her because she is smart, okay? She is not just a spunky girl. She's not just a kind of manipulative, fun-loving girl. She is wickedly brilliant, and I wanted someone on this list that fit that bill. And so when I was thinking about these books, I had to pick her because not only has she found her path, she knew at a very early age what she wanted to do. She knew her core, what she wanted to do. She's one of the lucky ones that didn't have to figure it out, and she drove to it and never stopped seeing that goal. She always plowed forward and kept moving, and I just thought it was awesome. She also has people that look up to her. Even though she's a woman in the 50s and 60s in a male-dominated profession, there is a moment in the story where she gains some notoriety and she gains kind of a platform. And instead of doing what she is hired to do, which is a cooking show, she is taking her scientific knowledge, applying it to cooking, and at the same time, revitalizing the women of the late 50s, early 60s, to strive for their goals and to go for their dreams and quit being just a stay-at-home housewife. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but she wants them to choose to do that, not because they're forced to do that. She understands that a lot of these women have brains and they have drive and they have backbone, and they are worthwhile. They are worth more than the parts between their legs and the roast that they can make in their fucking oven. Okay, straight up, they're worth more, and she wants to cultivate that. So these women start to follow her and listen and hang on over every word and start to follow their own goals. It is a beautiful story to watch this unfold and just have this woman in these late 60s have all this power, and nobody realizes that she's fucking doing it because she's so intelligent and she's literally outthinking all these people. And also to mention, she's fucking outspoken as all get out. Like, this bitch has no problem saying anything. Absolutely none. And I love her for it. I love her. She is what I would deem unstoppable. She suffers quite a lot of hardship in this book. A lot of devastating, traumatic hardship. Death, rape, new family members she wasn't expecting. She experiences a lot, and also dealing with all of that, she's dealing with society and how they judge women at that time frame and dealing with it. And she overcomes every single bit of it, whether it's through her fitness that she does, whether it's through her work, whether it's through her own personal journey that helped clear her head, the way she raises her child, the way she takes care of her dog. She overcomes everything. Nothing stops this woman. It might slow her down, but it never fucking stops her. And I just ate it up so fucking much. I loved her drive. I loved her heart. I loved her soul. It was amazing. She also has no self-doubt. This bitch knows she's right half the fucking time. Majority of the time, actually. And she has no qualms about fucking saying it. She's like, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. No, you're wrong. I'm right. and this is why. And then she proceeds to make you feel like a fucking idiot because you didn't listen to her in the first place. I love a bitch who can do that. I love it. I love the confidence in her own brain and her own skill set. I fucking loved it so much. I ate it up. Badass moment right there. All of these are badass moments. But she also can recognize that sometimes she does have faults in her character, and she's not always right. I said majority of the time. And when she is wrong, she acknowledges it and she learns to overcome it. But I love the way she overcame her weaknesses in this book, because she didn't overcome it in the way that you would have thought a normal woman from the late 50s, early 60s would have. She'd never succumb to societal expectations. She just worked within their scope and found the loopholes and played her hand, and she played it well. She realized her faults, she realized where she was weak, and she overcame and she adapted by being fucking smart about it. And I just, I loved her so much. This book had me crying, had me laughing, it pissed me off. It invoked so many emotions. But the thing that was left with the most with me is that Elizabeth Zott is a badass and a force to be reckoned with. End of fucking story. You want a historical fiction badass about a fairly modern woman, at least modern as in our time period, then this is something you want to check out. She's a fun one to read. Just be warned that you might get pissed off because of some of the prejudices that they hold towards women during the 1950s and late 60s and single mothers. It can get kind of touchy from time to time, but Elizabeth doesn't faze her, so you're in good hands. All right, so those are women that from page one, they were written to be a badass. But we have a lot of books where we have FMCs or female main characters that don't start off as a badass. But by the end of the book, we're just like, who the fuck are you? Because I love you. Where did you come from? And I wanted to shout out some of my favorite FMCs that were created badasses. So the first one I have is Colette from Lifeblood by Amara Ray. This is the first installment to the Moral Coven series. Again, check your trigger warnings. In this, there's quite a few. It's kind of dark and twisty. It is also a paranormal romance if you're looking for something like that. So we have Colette and Mackay. Colette is a hybrid life witch, and she was born of a witch mother and a warlock father, as well as every member of her entire coven. So she is a hybrid. Mackay is a hybrid warlock, still in search for his coven, is currently an initiate in the current clan that he's working with. In this world that was created by Amara Ray, warlocks leave their birth families to go find a clan that they fit with, that works with them. Witches stay with the coven they were born into. So we'll just clarify that. But there is a long-standing feud between witches and warlocks. I can talk. Colette, because of this long-standing feud, is kidnapped. And she is kidnapped by Mackay's clan, and she is left to suffer under Mackay because not only is he a sadist by choice, but he is the executioner. Yeah. And he likes to torture people. It's a good time. It's a great job for him, actually. It's a fantastic job. But she is left to his devices, and through an accidental blood transference, they learn that they are fated mates, and that's when the story kicks off. Colette is a created badass. And when I mean created, I'm not saying that she's endowed at some point in time in the story with powers to make her a badass. What I mean by created is that through the events in the story, you start to see her badassery, her whatever other word you want to use, it starts to come out. It was always there, but now it's coming out, or it's being pulled out, or it's being forced out, or it's gradually being brought out by her scenarios and the people that she surrounds herself with. And Colette is one of these. You see, in this story, after she finds out she has a fated mate, Mackay and Colette's love story is not based off the fated mate trope. It is an earned love and respect between these two. Are the scenes hot and heavy and sexy? Yes. But this book does not rely on the fated trope mechanic to invoke this romance. It's a built romance. And in this building of romance, Mackay builds up Colette's confidence in her own powers and in her own right. And it starts to show. She starts to bring out herself. And as her heart grows for Mackay and becomes full, so does her powers, and she becomes a force to be fucking reckoned with, okay? Straight up force to be reckoned with. Because in the beginning of the book, she's very sheltered. She can only do a few things, and the Coven feels like they have to protect her. But because of the belief of one person in her own strength, she allows herself to blossom and grow, and she learns all of these really cool fucking tricks that she can do, and she's like the most powerful witch in her Coven now. Dope as fuck. Dope as fuck. It's awesome. And because of this, people start to look up to her. They start to respect her more because they see her growth and where she came from and where she is now. And they start to learn to understand that we don't have to protect her. She can protect us. And all she ever needed was somebody to believe in her. And so they feel like an asshole because they never believed in her to try to push her to be her best. I loved Colette by the end of the story. I had such a good time with this one. This book is super, super spicy, and those scenes are spicy on both sides, so there's a lot of really cool, fun things in this book, but Colette's strength is something to be reckoned with, and I cannot wait to read the rest of the series. I have not read the rest of the series, but I have a feeling that I am not done with Colette just yet, and I'm very, very excited about that to see where she continues, because we've only scratched the surface of her badassness. So, the next FMC that I'd love to talk to you about is a tried and true favorite of mine, and that is Willa Grant from Heartless by Elsie Silver. This is the second installment to the Chestnut Spring series. We do have some triggers in here of death of a parent, graphic sexual content with dominant style language, a single dad, nanny, workplace romance, small town romance, grumpy sunshine, and rancher. So a lot of fun things in this. And this follows Willa Grant and Daddy Cade Easton. Yes, I said Daddy Cade because there's a reason you really need to read this book. I have done a full book review on this. I will link it over here in the corner. You can go check it out if you like. I go into full in-depth with the entire book, what works, what doesn't work. But what works is Willa. Willa Grant is fucking dope. So Willa is looking for some work during the summer, and she comes down to visit her friend, and her friend's husband, soon-to-be husband's brother, is Cade, and he's looking for a nanny for his young son. And she gets hired through some kind of manipulation of a scenario. And after she gets hired, this romance just goes off the fucking hinges. It's fantastic. Because Willa is a badass, okay? She is. She has great friends. Because of her friends, she was able to get this job and be able to be put in a scenario where this inner strength and inner just awesome could really start to flourish and come out. She was a bartender in her brother's bar, so she wasn't really thriving in her life. And now she's in an environment where she can thrive, she can grow, she can open herself up to people, and she can really find herself and come into her own, and she does. So her friends are definitely higher up on the hierarchy about that. People look up to her. Cade's young son looks up to her, and when he starts to emulate her, the way she responds is so well done that Cade's son feels safe to really express who he is and start to develop who he himself is. And through Cade's son starting to learn who he is and start to expand his horizons and become this well-rounded little kid who just loves his life, Cade starts to see this blossoming young son and sees where it's coming from. And then Cade starts to look up to her because he wants that. And you start to see that grumpy start to dissipate, and this romance between them start to really flourish, and it's fantastic. Willa does not take herself serious. She's a jokester. She will get down on the ground, make jokes, crack jokes. I mean, seriously, the way she's introduced to Cade before she knows that she's going to be her boss is she's in a coffee shop and some black underwear, some spare underwear falls out of her purse, and Cade picks them up and looks at them. And instead of being shy and blushing, saying, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." She's like, "Oh, we'll just keep them for later. Have fun. Enjoy yourself." Who doesn't want to be this bitch's friend? Seriously? Who doesn't want to be this woman? Like, that is fucking awesome. Just the ownership of herself. And she is just a good time, and she understands when dumb shit happens, and you just gotta roll with it and have fun. You can't take yourself too seriously because you'll end up grumpy and sad, and nobody likes that. Risks come naturally to her as well. She takes a lot of risk in this book with her heart, with her friendships, with her job, with just her lifestyle in general. She stands up for Cade's son to Cade's ex, Cade's son's mother, and she lets that bitch fucking have it. It is great. I loved it. And she comes into her own. She becomes emotionally vulnerable when she needs to be, but at the same time, she owns her sexuality, which is really risky to do with a partner that you've never been with. And there is some great fucking scenes with this, and she's not ashamed of things that some people are ashamed that they enjoy. She flat admits, I like being on my knees and doing this. It's because of me you're feeling this. When I read that, I loved it. Oh my God, this bitch became my best friend. I love Willa. She's so much fun, and this book is phenomenal. This thing hits on so many different levels. You really need to check this one out. And I did listen to this one on audiobook. It is a great fucking time. It's Daddy Cade is Daddy Cade for a reason, and Willa Grant is my best friend for a reason. All right, straight up. We think the same. Willa Grant is one of the few female heroines that I have read that I really can 100% relate to, because I am so much like her. A lot of her mannerisms and characteristics I possess, and I just related to her on so many levels. So maybe I'm kind of a badass, and I'm kind of biased towards her because I think I'm kind of a badass. So of course she's going to be a badass. So there you go. Another badass FMC I want to bring to your attention. I cannot do a recommendation video about female badass without talking about this bitch, and that's Claire Randall from Outlander by Diana Gambledon. First installment to the Outlander series, historical fiction. We do have some triggers for sexual assault and domestic abuse, rape, and graphic adult content. So we have Claire Randall, who's a nurse during World War II, and she's on her honeymoon with her husband in Scotland, and she comes across these standing stones, and this bitch literally falls into them and falls back into time, back into 1743 during the Scottish Uprising. It's here where she encounters Jamie Fraser and Black Jack Randall, who actually happens to be her great ancestor. Now, to save her life, she marries Jamie because she's English, so married to a Scotsman, that gives her some kind of protection against Black Jack Randall, who is English and trying to fight off the Scotsman. So the Scotsman clans will take her in if she is married to a Scotsman, and she marries Jamie, and Jamie just, oh my God, Jamie just loves her unconditionally, and the kind of love he gives her throughout the story puts her in a turmoil between the love that she has lost back in 1945 and the love that she's gained, the life that she's lost and the life that she has now. She has to make a choice, and this book is just fucking stunning. This is one of my favorite books, if not my favorite book of all time. I love this thing, and Claire Randall is one of the reasons I love it so much. She takes risks. She does. Not only was she a nurse during World War II, which was a risk in and of itself, but she took a risk that when she fell through the stones, knowing what she knew going in, she never shied away from helping people. She never shied away from using the knowledge that she had. She knew that she could be accused for witchcraft, but she didn't care. She just did it. She took that risk because that's what mattered, and these people needed saved and they needed helped. She's brave because of it, because she knew what could happen to her. Hell, it almost does fucking happen to her, okay? And she still keeps fighting. She still uses her knowledge in the best way possible to better the lives of the people in 1743. Her heart in this novel, I loved, because it was full with her first husband, but then when she meets Jamie, somehow she finds more to give, and this romance between them just blossoms. And before she fell through the stones, her heart is what drove her. When she fell through the stones, her heart continued to drive her, just for a different person. And it's fucking phenomenal. I loved her. I love her because she's fucking Claire Randall and she's also fucking Jamie Fraser. So I might love her, but I'm also kind of jealous of the bitch. All right, I'm gonna be perfectly honest about it. One of my favorite things though about her is that she identifies her weaknesses and faults and resolves them. So there comes a moment in the story where she has to make a choice between her old life and her new life, between her old husband and her new husband. She has to make a choice, and she really has to dig deep and look into it. She looks at her weaknesses with both men, and that's how she makes her choice. And it's phenomenal. It's heartbreaking, and it's beautiful all in all itself. I had such a good time with this book. I recommend this book all the time. If you have not read Diana Gabaldon's Outlander, you need to. There are so many things that work with it, and Claire Randall is one of the bigger reasons why this book works, because she's fucking awesome. And she's a badass. End of story. The last grouping of badass females I have is actually a real badass. I read a lot of historical fiction, and there's a lot of badass women historical figures that I could have recommended, but I wanted someone a little bit more down to earth for this video because of some of the other people that I've chosen. As you've noticed, I did not pick anybody with really like not a lot of fantastical powers. I have one witch on here. But I felt a lot of people for this video would pick ACOTAR, Feyre from ACOTAR, or Selena Sardothien from the Throne of Glass series. And so I wanted to stray away from the mythical badasses, you know, when you think she's a badass. So I dug really deep, and I remembered a book that I listened to a long time ago. It's an autobiography, and I like to let you know why I think this woman's a badass and her story's worth reading. And that is Bobby Brown's Dirty Rocker Boys and Cherry on Top by Bobby Brown. This is two separate books. Dirty Rocker Boys is first, and Cherry on Top is the follow-up to this. It's more of her adult life after all of the chaos from the 80s. If you are not familiar with who Bobby Brown is, this is Bobby Brown. This is her in the Warren's Cherry Pie video. She is the chick from the Cherry Pie video. That's the easiest way people know her. This is Bobby Brown, guys. She is awesome. So she was a famous video vixen during the height of the hair bands in the 80s. She was married to the lead singer of Warrant, but she was also engaged to Tommy Lee from Motley Crue before Pamela. She was the blonde before Pamela. Yeah. We get into that in this book. It's fantastic. But these books are written by her with a companion writer, help kind of get all the formatting and everything. And I listened to these on audiobook, and she actually narrates her own audiobook. This thing had me laughing, had me crying, had me in shock that she's still fucking alive, because she literally goes into everything. She talks about her childhood. She talks about the early days on the talent search that she was on. She talks about being a video vixen in the 80s. She talks about the drugs. She talks about the highs. She talks about the lows. She talks about every time she's been beat down. And this bitch still keeps coming back. She's like a fucking cockroach, okay? Not to mention she's also fucking beautiful, all right? Swear to God. She just keeps coming back, and she's just a badass because on top of it, during all of this stuff, she was just a genuinely funny, down-to-earth, backwoods kind of chick. She wasn't really full of herself. She was just fucking funny. She liked fart jokes, she liked sex, and she liked to have a good fucking time. And she liked to drink, and she liked to smoke weed, and she liked to do cocaine. So, you know, hell, she had a great fucking time. She talks about every single rocker she's ever dated, everyone she's ever banged, and there's some big names in there. Oh yeah, there's some big ones. There's some juicy stories in there. Just saying. Really, really appreciated those. But I feel like she demonstrates all of these traits. And when you get to Cherry on Top, which is the follow-up to this, this is after she turns 40 and she's starting her comedy career, and the woman is fucking hysterical, okay? I don't know why she's not bigger in stand-up, because she's fucking hilarious, and I do still listen to her podcast every once in a while. I have a good time with her a lot. So if you're looking for something that's not super heavy, but is kind of relatable in a really crazy fucking coked out kind of way, check this one out, because she's just a badass. She is, and she don't give a fuck. She does not give a fuck. She will tell it like it is, and I just fucking adored her. I had a really good time with this one. I highly recommend this one. Definitely check out the audiobook because she does narrate herself, and she's got this really cool, like, kind of gritty Southern accent voice to her, and it's awesome to listen to her. It just feels like you're having a conversation with an old girlfriend, and it's fucking great. It's great. It's a good fucking time. But those are my recommendations for badass FMCs. I hope you guys enjoy these, and if you pick up any of these female main characters, let me know, and let me know if you happen to agree or disagree with me. I had a really good time with this. Again, Becky, thank you for asking me to collab with you. The answer is pretty much always going to be yes if I have at least 3 books I can recommend. So thank you again for including me, and I hope you guys enjoy this, and I will see you guys all soon with another video. And for all my badasses out there, I love you guys.